Long before modern technology, ancient minds crafted wonders that time forgot. From mysterious machines to clever tools lost to history, these inventions shaped the world in silence. As you settle in, let these forgotten marvels gently guide you into sleep, one ancient idea at a time. 1. The Antikythera mechanism, the world's first analog computer. Discovered in a sunken shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, in 1901, the Antikythera mechanism has captivated scientists and historians alike. At first glance, it seemed like a corroded lump of bronze and wood, but inside, a delicate array of interlocking gears whispered of something astonishing. Over the decades, researchers slowly pieced together its purpose. It was a sophisticated astronomical calculator created over 2,000 years ago, likely by Greek engineers. This device could predict lunar and solar eclipses, track the movements of celestial bodies, and even indicate the timing of the Olympic Games. With over 30 intricate bronze gears, some so small and precise that their craftsmanship rivals modern engineering, the Antikythera mechanism stands as a marvel far ahead of its time. It operated with a hand crank, setting the gears into motion to simulate the universe in miniature. In an era when most of the world believed the stars to be divine mysteries, the Greeks built a machine that turned those mysteries into mathematics. As you close your eyes, imagine a quiet workshop bathed in lamplight, an ancient mind hunched over his creation, etching numbers into metal with painstaking care. The gears turn slowly, softly, like the rhythm of time itself unfolding. Somewhere beneath the waves, it waited to be rediscovered, a ghost of forgotten genius, reminding us how much we once knew, and how easily such knowledge can slip beneath the surface of history. 2. Roman concrete, the secret to immortal structures. Modern concrete crumbles over decades, but Roman concrete has endured for over 2 millennia. Structures like the Pantheon and aqueducts remain standing not merely because of design, but because of a forgotten recipe, a formula lost for centuries that modern science is only beginning to understand. Roman engineers mixed volcanic ash, lime, and seawater to create a chemical reaction that grew stronger over time. When exposed to water, this ancient blend developed a rare crystal called a luminous tobamorite, which actually increased the concrete's durability. It was self-healing, resilient, and perfectly suited for coastal constructions. While today's concrete often weakens when interacting with water, Roman concrete thrives in it. Their secret? Letting nature reinforce the mix rather than degrade it. What makes this even more astonishing is how the Romans understood, without modern chemistry, how to manipulate these materials for lasting strength. They didn't just build for the present, they built for eternity. Their architecture remains not only as ruins but as thriving reminders that ancient innovation often rivaled, or even surpassed, what we consider cutting-edge today. Now, picture Roman builders smoothing out this magic mixture beneath the hot Mediterranean sun, laying the foundation of history. The stones breathe with time, whispering stories of empires, gladiators, and forgotten gods. As you drift off, imagine the Pantheon still standing proud beneath a moonlit sky, held together by a secret the world forgot until now. 3. Greek fire, the unquenchable weapon. It was said to burn even on water, clinging to ships and soldiers with a fury that could not be extinguished. Greek fire was the Byzantine Empire's fearsome secret weapon, an incendiary liquid launched from siphons and tubes, igniting chaos across enemy fleets. It emerged around the 7th century and helped secure the survival of Constantinople against invaders more than once. What made Greek fire so terrifying was its unstoppable nature. Historians believe it may have been a mix of petroleum, sulfur, and other combustible ingredients, but the true recipe was guarded so tightly it died with its keepers. Even today, chemists cannot replicate it precisely. It could be shot under pressure from bronze tubes, lighting up the night with roaring streams of fire. Sailors feared it more than any sword or storm. The Byzantines treated the recipe like sacred scripture, known only to select military engineers and the emperor himself. It was a marvel of chemistry and engineering, centuries before such sciences were formally born. As your mind begins to settle, Envision the glowing embers casting flickers on the dark Aegean waves, illuminating the ghostly outline of a warship prepared to defend its city with a flame that defied nature. The hiss of ignition fades into the night, leaving behind only drifting smoke and the memory of a weapon that held empires at bay and vanished without a trace. 4. Damascus steel, the blade that could cut through legends. In the heart of the ancient Middle East, blacksmiths once forged blades so sharp and resilient that they inspired awe and legend. Known as Damascus steel, these swords could allegedly slice through other metals, sever silk in midair, and never lose their edge. Used by warriors and revered by collectors, they became symbols of mystery and martial superiority. What made Damascus steel so unique wasn't just its cutting power, but its mesmerizing rippling patterns, like dark water frozen in motion. These patterns weren't ornamental, they were the result of carbon nanotubes and microstructures formed during a careful process of forging and folding steel with exact precision. The knowledge of creating such steel, however, was lost sometime around the 18th century. Despite modern metallurgy, the exact original technique remains elusive. Some believe the raw material came from Indian wood steel, while others suggest the secret lay in cooling temperatures or forging rhythm. Whatever the truth, the process vanished, leaving behind only artifacts and whispers of their makers. Let your thoughts drift now to a desert forge under starlit skies, where ancient smiths hammered steel as sparks danced like fireflies. The rhythm of metal on anvil echoes like a heartbeat of a forgotten era. As you fall into dreams, imagine a blade so perfect it defies time, a weapon forged not just of iron, but of knowledge now lost to the wind. 5. Egyptian water clocks, time measured by stillness. Long before mechanical clocks ticked in towers, the ancient Egyptians used the quiet movement of water to measure time. These water clocks, called clepsydras, were elegant stone or ceramic vessels with a small hole at the bottom. As water dripped steadily, it marked the passage of hours, a silent, flowing measure of the day and night. Used as early as 1500 BCE, water clocks were vital for rituals, astronomy, and temple ceremonies. The Egyptians understood the importance of time not just in practicality, but in the harmony of cosmic order. Some clocks were elaborately inscribed with hourly markers, and priests used them to coordinate offerings to the gods. Unlike sundials, which needed sunlight, clepsydras worked in darkness. Their steady dripping may have echoed softly in temple halls, like the heartbeat of time itself. The concept spread from Egypt to Babylon, Greece, and China, evolving into more complex designs. But the original Egyptian versions were pure simplicity and quiet precision. Close your eyes now and hear the gentle plink of water into a basin, each drop a step into the future. Picture robed figures in candlelit chambers, watching the flow, marking the hours in silence. Time wasn't ticking or racing, it was gliding, flowing, gently carrying the world forward. 6. The Baghdad Battery, ancient electricity or misunderstood mystery. In the 1930s, archaeologists unearthed a curious set of clay jars near Baghdad. Each contained a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod. Some researchers speculated these 2,000-year-old objects might be primitive batteries. If true, it would mean ancient people harnessed electricity long before its formal discovery. Called the Baghdad Battery, this invention may have been capable of generating small electrical charges when filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or lemon juice. But why? Theories abound. Perhaps it was used for electroplating metals, delivering tiny shocks in religious rituals, or simply as a scientific curiosity. Skeptics argue it wasn't a battery at all, but rather a simple storage jar. Yet the components align too neatly with modern battery design to ignore entirely. Its purpose, like so many ancient mysteries, remains unclear, teetering between speculation and possibility. As you ease into sleep, imagine ancient hands assembling copper and iron, pouring in strange liquids, and watching the faint fizz of unseen forces. Whether it sparked light or awe, the Baghdad Battery reminds us that innovation is not just a product of the modern world. Sometimes, the past holds sparks we have yet to understand. 7. The Roman surgical tools, Precision in the ancient world. In the ruins of Pompeii and other Roman settlements, archaeologists have discovered sets of surgical tools so refined and familiar-looking that they wouldn't seem out of place in a modern operating room. Forceps, scalpels, bone saws, and even vaginal speculums, carefully crafted in bronze and iron, revealed that Roman medicine was far more advanced than many assume. These instruments were used by highly trained physicians who followed the teachings of Greek predecessors like Hippocrates and Galen. Roman army surgeons traveled with legions, performing battlefield procedures and treating wounds with astonishing skill. Some tools were designed for specific functions, like extracting arrows or repairing fractures. Others show signs of sterilization, suggesting awareness, at least intuitively, of the importance of cleanliness. Rome's medical knowledge wasn't merely practical. Hospitals existed, especially for soldiers. Records show treatments for cataracts, hernias, and even cosmetic surgery. Their surgeries were invasive, but the tools reveal a commitment to precision and healing. Unfortunately, much of this knowledge was lost with the fall of the empire and wouldn't be matched again until centuries later. Now imagine the soft clink of metal against metal as a Roman doctor selects his tools under the oil lamp's glow. Outside, the world is chaos, but inside, there is care, study, and intent. Let that vision soothe you into rest, of ancient minds mending broken bodies with skill we are only beginning to rediscover. 8. Archimedes' death ray, fact, fiction, or forgotten genius. One of the most famous legends from ancient warfare tells of Archimedes, the brilliant Greek mathematician, using a death ray to set Roman ships ablaze during the siege of Syracuse. According to the story, he arranged polished bronze mirrors to reflect and focus sunlight into deadly beams, igniting enemy sails from afar. While debated for centuries, this tale blurs the line between myth and science. Modern experiments, including those by MIT students, have shown that such a feat is technically possible under ideal conditions. Archimedes, known for his genius in geometry, mechanics, and optics, may well have conceptualized this solar weapon. Whether or not it worked, the idea itself is a testament to the inventive mind of antiquity. If it did exist, the death ray would have required precise positioning of dozens of mirrors, coordination, and brilliant timing, traits Archimedes certainly possessed. And whether it ever lit sails on fire or simply dazzled and confused Roman attackers, it shows how ancient thinkers weren't just dreamers, they were engineers pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Close your eyes and see the Mediterranean sun glinting off bronze mirrors, focused like a lens of fury. Archimedes, calm and calculating, standing atop city walls, turning sunlight into defense. Whether real or imagined, the story reflects a mind so bright it continues to burn across millennia. 9. Viking sunstones, navigating with crystals. Long before GPS and magnetic compasses, Norse seafarers crossed vast, fog-covered seas with uncanny accuracy. One of their rumored secrets? The Viking sunstone, a mysterious, possibly crystalline tool that allowed them to locate the sun even on overcast days. Iceland's spar, a type of transparent calcite, is the leading candidate for this ancient invention. It has a unique optical property called birefringence. It splits light into two rays. By rotating the crystal and observing how the light shifts, navigators could determine the sun's direction even when it was hidden. The sagas describe sunstones as vital to Viking exploration, and modern experiments have validated their potential effectiveness. Even when clouds obscured the sky, a skilled sailor could use the sunstone's light patterns to orient themselves, plotting their course across treacherous waters. It's likely this tool contributed to the Vikings' ability to reach Greenland and even North America centuries before Columbus. Imagine being on a wooden longship, waves crashing around, sky dull and gray. A bearded navigator lifts a crystal to the sky, watching the ghost of sunlight flicker within. The ship corrects course, guided not by stars or sun, but by the hidden language of light. As you drift off, think of the quiet confidence of ancient mariners guided by stone and instinct, chasing the horizon with a clarity we've only just begun to understand. 10. The Eolipile, hero's engine. Steam power before its time. Long before the Industrial Revolution, the ancient world glimpsed the power of steam in a device known as the Aeolipile. Invented by Hero of Alexandria in the 1st century CE, this curious contraption consisted of a hollow metal sphere mounted on a pivot. When water was heated below, steam would shoot out from 2 nozzles on opposite sides, causing the sphere to spin rapidly. It was the first recorded steam engine in history. The Aeolipile didn't power anything practical, at least not in its time. It was more of a demonstration piece, a mechanical wonder meant to fascinate and perhaps entertain temple-goers. But its implications were profound. It showed that steam could produce motion, centuries before engineers put that idea to work in locomotives and factories. Hero also designed automatic doors and intricate fountains, hinting at a forgotten world of ancient mechanics. Some scholars believe the Aeolipile could have triggered an earlier industrial age had it been adopted more widely. But instead, it remained a curiosity, its potential buried under centuries of dust. As you lie back, picture the hiss of steam rising in a quiet Alexandrian workshop. The sphere begins to spin, gently and endlessly, like a cosmic toy. In the flicker of firelight, a whisper of what might have been, a lost chance to change the world. 11. Ancient Chinese seismograph, the earthquake detector of Han Dynasty. In 132 CE, Zhongheng, a Chinese polymath and astronomer, unveiled a device so advanced it would not be matched for over 1,000 years. It was the world's first seismograph, a bronze urn-like instrument designed to detect distant earthquakes. The seismograph was elegant in its design. Around its surface were 8 dragons, each holding a ball in its mouth. Below them were 8 frogs with open mouths. When an earthquake occurred, a hidden pendulum inside the device would shift, releasing a ball from one dragon's mouth into the frogs, indicating the direction of the quake. Remarkably, the machine could detect tremors hundreds of miles away. This invention showed not only technical brilliance but also a deep understanding of natural forces. Though Zhongheng couldn't explain tectonic plates, he knew the earth moved, and he sought to measure that invisible motion. His work reflected the Han Dynasty's hunger for knowledge and practical innovation. Drift now into a world lit by lanterns, where scholars ponder the universe and craft instruments from metal and imagination. The clang of bronze, the drop of a single ball, and a ripple across the earth echo into your dreams, soft signs of wisdom listening to the silent language of the planet. 12. Indian iron pillars, rust-proof wonders of ancient metallurgy. Scattered across India are towering iron pillars, the most famous of which stands in Delhi. Over 1,600 years old, this 7-meter-tall structure has defied time and nature by resisting rust and corrosion almost completely. Modern metallurgists continue to marvel at how ancient Indian smiths achieved such durability without modern technology. The secret lies in the high phosphorus content and the absence of sulfur and magnesium in the iron. When exposed to moisture, this composition forms a protective layer of crystalline iron hydrogen phosphate that shields it from further decay. Essentially, the pillar heals itself when scratched or weathered. Created during the reign of Chandragupta II, the pillar likely had religious or commemorative significance, but its metallurgical mastery has become its greatest legacy. It's a monument to both spiritual devotion and technical genius, proof that the ancients not only understood the elements but could manipulate them with astounding precision. Close your eyes and imagine a smith's hammer echoing through an Indian valley, firelight bouncing off polished iron. Sparks rise like fireflies into the night as a perfect pillar takes shape, destined to stand untouched by centuries of rain, wind, and time itself. A silent guardian of forgotten knowledge, watching the ages unfold. 13. Nazca Hydraulic Systems, the desert's forgotten lifeline. Deep in the arid plains of southern Peru, the ancient Nazca civilization accomplished something extraordinary. Beneath the parched surface, they built an intricate network of underground aqueducts known as puquios. These hydraulic systems, created over 1,500 years ago, transported groundwater to the surface, providing a reliable water supply in one of the driest places on Earth. The puquios were dug deep into the ground and lined with stones to prevent collapse. Spiral-shaped ventilation shafts, some still visible today, allowed maintenance access and helped regulate water pressure. Using gravity alone, the Nazca ensured year-round irrigation for agriculture, supporting crops like maize and cotton in a place that receives barely any rain. What makes the Puquios even more impressive is that many are still functional. Their builders had no metal tools, yet they achieved a level of precision and sustainability that modern engineers admire. It's a testament to their deep knowledge of geology, hydrology, and community planning. As you settle in for rest, picture the quiet hum of wind across the desert. Far below, cool water flows through ancient channels, a gift from those who mastered the art of making life bloom where nothing should grow. Their whisper lingers in the earth, gentle, enduring, and wise. 14. Peruvian skull surgery, trepanation, ancient brain surgery. Centuries before modern medicine developed surgical tools and sterile operating rooms, the ancient Peruvians were performing successful brain surgeries. Known as trepanation, this procedure involved carefully cutting or scraping a hole into the skull to treat head injuries, relieve pressure, or possibly even for spiritual reasons. Archaeologists have discovered hundreds of skulls from the Inca and pre-Inca periods bearing signs of trepanation, many with clear evidence of healing, proof that patients survived. Success rates were remarkably high, especially when compared to the same procedure done in Europe centuries later. These ancient surgeons likely used obsidian blades and had keen knowledge of anatomy. Some skulls show multiple healed trepanations, meaning individuals survived more than one brain operation. The exact anesthetics or pain relief methods used remain unknown, but herbal sedatives or coca leaves may have played a role. What's certain is that this was not barbarism, it was medicine, practiced with purpose and care. As you drift into sleep, imagine a high-altitude stone chamber, quiet except for the patient's breath and the surgeon's focus. A steady hand, a sharp blade, and deep understanding turn a dangerous procedure into a miracle of survival. Proof that healing hands have always reached through the darkness. 15. Babylonian astronomy tablets, mapping the heavens. In the dusty ruins of Mesopotamia, archaeologists discovered cuneiform tablets covered with symbols and numbers, records of planetary positions, lunar eclipses, and celestial patterns. These Babylonian astronomy tablets date back over 2,500 years and reveal a staggering depth of astronomical knowledge. Using a base 60 numeral system, the Babylonians were able to make remarkably accurate predictions of celestial events. They tracked the movement of Jupiter, recorded the Saros cycle of eclipses, and even had the concept of zero, a mathematical innovation that wouldn't spread widely until much later. These weren't just observations, they were calculations, methods, formulas. Some tablets even include what appears to be an early form of calculus, as they estimated the area under curves to understand planetary motion. Their motivation wasn't just curiosity, it was tied to agriculture, omens, and the belief that the heavens influenced earthly events. Now, as your thoughts begin to fade, imagine robed scribes bent over clay tablets, styluses in hand, watching the stars shift above the ziggurats. In their markings, they captured the rhythms of the cosmos, mapping the night sky with mathematics, patience, and awe. A silent language written in clay, meant to outlast empires and echo into the present night. 16. Ancient Greek vending machines, coins for holy water. Long before modern snack dispensers lined every corner store, the ancient Greeks designed a curious machine that might be considered the world's first vending device. Created by the ingenious engineer Hero of Alexandria in the 1st century AD, this early invention dispensed holy water at temples. Worshippers would insert a coin into a slot, which would fall onto a lever. The weight of the coin tilted the lever, opening a valve that allowed water to flow out. Once the coin slipped off, the valve shut, and the flow stopped. Simple, yet brilliant. This mechanism wasn't designed for convenience or profit. Instead, it maintained fairness. Hero's machine ensured that each worshipper received the same measured amount of sacred water, eliminating the need for a priest to manually oversee each offering. This self-service technology showed that even in ancient times, People sought order, efficiency, and trust in systems. As you let your thoughts drift, imagine a quiet marble temple, incense curling through sunbeams, and the faint clink of bronze coins echoing beneath the domed ceiling. The water flows gently into a bowl, a moment of sacred ritual automated with precision. Behind that stillness lies a mind centuries ahead, blending the spiritual with the mechanical, planting the seeds of technology we now take for granted. 17. Mayan rubber processing, bouncing into innovation. The ancient Maya, along with the Olmec and Aztec civilizations, were among the first to develop rubber. Centuries before Charles Goodyear discovered vulcanization in the 1800s, Mesoamerican peoples were harvesting latex from rubber trees and processing it into usable materials. Through a sophisticated technique that combined latex with the juice of morning glory vines, a natural coagulant, they created rubber that was durable, elastic, and remarkably versatile. They used it to make sandals, waterproof textiles, bindings for tools, and most notably, rubber balls for their ceremonial ball games. These games held deep spiritual significance and were played in massive stone courts. The balls, large and heavy, bounced with an energy that amazed the Spanish conquistadors who later witnessed the spectacle. This knowledge of chemistry, experimentation, and purpose reflects a deep understanding of their environment. The Mayans weren't just extracting resources, they were transforming nature into culture, embedding their science into rituals and daily life. Their innovation reveals a harmony between invention and belief. As you drift into dreams, imagine jungle groves alive with chirping insects, where ancient hands press, shape, and stretch rubber into form. The rhythmic bounce of a rubber ball echoes through the trees, a soft reminder that even the wildest forest once held the secrets of polymer science. 18. Incan Quipu, knot records, a language of knots. High in the Andes, the Inca Empire governed a vast territory without a written language. Instead, they used quipu, intricate cords of knotted string, to keep records, convey information, and maintain control. Each quipu consisted of a main cord from which hung several others, each adorned with knots of different types, positions, and spacings. These encoded numerical and possibly narrative data. The system allowed messengers to run across mountains with complex census data, tax records, or calendrical information wrapped into loops of colored fiber. Certain quipus may have told stories or passed down oral histories, though their full meaning remains partly a mystery. What is known is that quipu users were trained specialists, and their work was respected and vital to the empire's administration. The quipu is more than a clever accounting tool, it's a unique communication system, different from writing yet deeply expressive. It shows us that literacy can take many forms, that intelligence doesn't need paper and ink to leave a legacy. As your breath slows, picture an Incan official seated beside a glowing fire, fingers flying across cords with practiced grace. Each knot, each twist of fiber, carries memory, not just numbers, but echoes of people, goods, seasons, and stories. In those threads lies a woven whisper from the past, soft and steady as sleep itself. 19. Minoan plumbing systems, Bronze Age water wonders. Long before the Roman aqueducts flowed and modern plumbing took shape, the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete had already engineered sophisticated plumbing systems around 2000 BCE. In the palaces of Knossos and Phaistos, archaeologists discovered clay pipes, drainage networks, and even flushing toilets that served both hygiene and comfort. The Minoans used terracotta pipes to move both fresh and wastewater. These pipes were carefully fitted together, narrowing at the joints to increase water pressure, a technique remarkably advanced for the time. Some homes had bathtubs and lavatories, and water was even used decoratively, with fountains and basins enhancing the ambience of palatial life. Equally impressive was their use of gravity to manage water flow. Without pumps, they relied on elevation differences to guide water through the system. Their drainage channels directed stormwater away from buildings, preventing flooding and preserving infrastructure. As your eyes begin to grow heavy, imagine the gentle trickle of water winding through a marble corridor, echoing softly beneath the stone floors of an ancient palace. The Minoans lived with a comfort that seems out of place for their time, yet their innovation flowed as easily as the waters they tamed. 20. Chinese south-pointing chariot, the ancient compass on wheels. Long before the magnetic compass, ancient Chinese inventors created a mechanical marvel known as the south-pointing chariot. This remarkable vehicle, believed to have been developed as early as the 3rd century CE, always pointed south regardless of how the chariot turned. And it did so not with magnets, but with ingenious gears. The device used a differential gear system that adjusted a wooden figure atop the chariot, ensuring it remained pointing south no matter the direction of the wheels. This system anticipated complex gear designs long before their appearance in Western engineering. Though originally used for military and ceremonial purposes, it also showcased deep understanding of orientation, navigation, and mechanics. What makes this invention even more astounding is that it was entirely mechanical, a delicate balance of motion and mathematics without reliance on magnetism. The south-pointing chariot is considered one of the earliest known examples of a non-magnetic directional tool in human history. As you ease into sleep, picture a quiet wooden cart rolling across ancient roads, its little guide always facing south, whispering a silent promise of direction amid the chaos of motion. A forgotten guardian of the way, moving through time with grace and gears. 21. Aztec floating gardens, chinampas, agriculture on water. In the Valley of Mexico, the Aztecs developed a brilliant solution for farming on swampy land, chinampas, or floating gardens. These weren't rafts but rectangular plots built on shallow lakebeds. Anchored with willow trees and supported by layers of mud, sediment, and plant matter, chinampas created fertile, self-irrigating plots that allowed year-round cultivation. Each chinampa was about 30 meters long and 2 to 4 meters wide, forming a grid of floating farmland interlaced with canals. These canals were used for transportation and irrigation, creating a beautifully efficient system. Crops like maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers thrived thanks to the rich nutrients and constant water supply. The Aztecs managed to feed a vast population using this method, transforming the lakes of Tenochtitlan into a living mosaic of green and blue. Even today, remnants of chinampas can still be seen in Xochimilco, near Mexico City, a fading echo of an empire that nourished itself with innovation. Let your thoughts float now, like a canoe gliding between the green rows of ancient gardens. Listen to the water lap against the roots, and feel the gentle cradle of the earth resting atop the lake. In this harmony of land and water, the Aztecs wove a dream of sustenance, balance, and quiet genius. 22. Greek automatic doors, the first hands-free entry. Long before motion sensors or electric motors, ancient Greek engineers designed one of the earliest forms of automatic doors. These were used in temples, particularly in Alexandria, and were powered not by electricity, but by heat, pressure, and brilliant mechanics. Heron of Alexandria, a Greek inventor from the 1st century CE, devised a way to use fire and steam to open temple doors without human touch. The process involved lighting a fire on an altar. As the heat increased, air pressure built up in a closed vessel. This pressure then pushed water through hidden pipes into a bucket, which gradually became heavier. When the bucket dropped due to the added weight, it pulled a system of ropes and pulleys that swung the temple doors open. To the ancient worshippers, this must have seemed like divine magic, doors opening by the power of the gods. This ingenious system wasn't just a party trick. It reflected an advanced understanding of pneumatics, engineering, and theatrical presentation. Heron created an illusion of divine presence through mechanics, blending science with spirituality. As your eyelids grow heavier, picture marble temple doors groaning open with no visible hand, incense curling in the air, and flickering flames casting moving shadows on sacred walls. Somewhere behind it all, a quiet inventor had made magic real, with nothing more than heat, water, and an imagination that moved stone. 23. Roman hypercaused heating system, ancient central heating. In the villas and bathhouses of ancient Rome, staying warm wasn't just a luxury, it was an engineered masterpiece. The hypercourse system, an early form of central heating, used a raised floor and hollow walls to circulate warm air generated by furnaces. It allowed heat to move under floors and through flues in the walls, creating a cozy and consistent warmth, especially in winter. Furnaces were stoked with wood by slaves, and the hot air flowed through carefully constructed spaces beneath floors supported by stone or brick pillars. Wealthier homes and public baths were fitted with these systems, turning cold marble rooms into comfortable spaces where citizens could bathe, socialize, or simply relax. The brilliance of the hypercourse lies in its simplicity and efficiency. Romans understood that heat rises, and by managing airflow, they created an even distribution of warmth throughout large structures. Modern underfloor heating systems owe a debt to this ancient design. Now, as you ease into rest, imagine stepping into a Roman bath, a grand hall echoing with soft voices, marble underfoot warm to the touch. Far below, heat flows silently, a hidden fire comforting the body and calming the mind. Ancient warmth, crafted by hands that knew how to tame the cold. 24. Egyptian pregnancy tests, a botanical diagnostic tool. Among the many medical practices of ancient Egypt, one curious method stands out, a pregnancy test using barley and emmer wheat. Recorded in papyrus texts as early as 1350 BCE, women would urinate on seeds over several days. If the barley sprouted first, it was believed the woman was carrying a boy. If emmer sprouted, a girl. No growth at all suggested she wasn't pregnant. As strange as it may sound, modern science has shown that there's some biological basis to this method. Hormones in pregnant urine can promote seed germination faster than non-pregnant urine. While it obviously can't determine gender, this early diagnostic technique may have been surprisingly effective at identifying pregnancy. This approach highlights the Egyptian reliance on observation and the natural world. Without microscopes or laboratories, they still sought answers through experimentation and pattern recognition. The test also had a spiritual element, life predicting life, offering comfort or preparation for the future. As you drift further into sleep, picture an Egyptian courtyard at dawn, golden light falling on rows of growing seeds. A priestess checks for sprouts with quiet reverence. In this simple, silent ritual, life speaks softly to life, and ancient wisdom grows leaf by leaf in the sand. 25. Indian stepwells, subterranean wonders of water engineering. Across the arid plains of western India, ancient engineers devised an elegant solution for harvesting and storing rainwater, stepwells. These architectural marvels, called bauris or valves, date back over 1,000 years and combine beauty, function, and sustainability in remarkable harmony. Unlike typical wells, stepwells were vast, ornate structures that descended deep into the earth, with rows of carved stone steps leading down to a pool of collected water. The genius of stepwells lay not only in their ability to collect monsoon rains but in how they maintained water access throughout the dry seasons. Their design allowed people to descend deeper as water levels fell, making them usable year-round. They also served as cool sanctuaries during intense summer heat, a social space, a spiritual refuge, and a lifeline. Some stepwells, like the Rani Ki Vav in Gujarat, are masterpieces of sculpture and symmetry, adorned with intricate carvings of deities and mythological scenes. These weren't just water sources, they were expressions of reverence toward nature and life. As you drift off, picture walking down quiet, shadowed steps into the earth. Stone walls echo with centuries of footsteps. The air cools. At the bottom, calm water reflects flickering torchlight. A sacred stillness lives in these ancient reservoirs, gentle, deep, and wise. 26. Chinese papermaking technique, the craft that changed the world. Long before the printing press or typewriter, ancient China gifted the world with one of its most transformative inventions, paper. Around 105 CE, a court official named Cai Lun developed a method for making paper from mulberry bark, hemp, old rags, and fishing nets. This early paper was lightweight, durable, and absorbent, a vast improvement over bamboo slips and silk scrolls. The process began by soaking and pulping the plant fibers into a slurry. This mixture was then spread over a screen, drained, pressed, and dried into thin, flat sheets. The result was a flexible writing surface that could be produced relatively cheaply and in abundance. This invention revolutionized record-keeping, literature, communication, and administration. Paper spread slowly westward along trade routes like the Silk Road, transforming empires and cultures wherever it went. From poetry and philosophy to maps and science, knowledge could now be preserved and shared in unprecedented ways. Imagine, as you settle into rest, a quiet workshop where pulp drips softly from woven screens. Gentle hands smooth each sheet under the sun. A breeze carries the faint scent of mulberry bark. In that simplicity, civilization finds its voice, and the world prepares to remember. 27. Japanese earthquake-proof pagodas, sacred stability. Japan, a land frequently rocked by earthquakes, developed ancient architectural marvels that still puzzle engineers today, wooden pagodas that can withstand powerful tremors. These multi-tiered towers, often found in Buddhist temple complexes, have stood for centuries through seismic activity that crumbles modern buildings. The secret lies in their ingenious construction. Pagodas are built with a central wooden pillar, called the shinbashira, which runs through the core like a spine. Instead of being fixed tightly, the different layers of the pagoda are stacked loosely and allowed to sway. During an earthquake, each tier moves independently, dissipating the seismic energy like a stack of cushioned discs. This design, along with flexible wooden joinery and wide eaves, gives the structure remarkable resilience. Some pagodas have survived quakes for over 1,000 years without a single nail used in their construction. It's a quiet testament to the wisdom of traditional craftsmanship and the harmony of building with, rather than against, nature. Now, as sleep pulls you inward, picture a tall pagoda gently swaying with the earth. Its wooden beams creak softly like old lullabies. Layered and rooted in stillness, it stands watch over centuries, whispering the secret, balance is strength. 28. Etruscan arch bridges, the lost art of balanced stone. Long before the Roman Empire perfected their iconic stone arches, the Etruscans quietly laid the groundwork. Their bridges, constructed as early as the 7th century BCE, employed precise stone-cutting techniques and a deep understanding of weight distribution. These bridges were made without mortar, each stone cut so precisely that it held the others in place, creating durable structures that stood strong against time and the elements. The secret lay in the keystone, the central, wedge-shaped stone that locked the arch into place. Once set, the pressure from above would only strengthen the arch's integrity. The Etruscans applied this knowledge not just to bridges but also to vaults, tombs, and aqueducts, passing their architectural genius on to the Romans. Though few of their bridges remain intact, their influence is embedded in countless structures throughout Europe. These early feats of engineering remind us how civilizations build upon one another, stone by stone, thought by thought. As you drift off, picture a quiet riverbed, its surface barely rippling under the weight of an ancient stone arch. The stones hum with the quiet wisdom of forgotten hands, perfectly aligned, holding each other with silent trust. 29. Persian yakhchals, ancient refrigerators, ice in the desert. In the hot, dry deserts of ancient Persia, a brilliant cooling technology emerged, yakhchals. These dome-shaped structures, some dating back to 400 BCE, were early forms of refrigerators capable of storing ice and food year-round, even under scorching sun. Constructed with thick, heat-reflecting walls made from a special mortar called sarouj, a mix of sand, clay, egg whites, and other materials, yakhchals could keep interior temperatures low even in the peak of summer. They were often built partially underground and connected to qanats, or underground water channels, which helped regulate internal cooling through evaporation and airflow. Ice was collected from nearby mountains or frozen during cold desert nights, then stored inside. The clever design minimized heat gain while maximizing thermal insulation. These innovations allowed ancient communities to preserve food and enjoy cool drinks long before electricity or mechanical refrigeration. As your mind softens into sleep, imagine standing in the quiet shadow of a towering yakhchal, its earthen walls radiating calm. Inside, cool air whispers across ancient ice, preserved through ingenuity, patience, and nature's own balance. 30. Babylonian algebra tablets, ancient equations of the mind. Long before the word algebra existed, the Babylonians were solving complex mathematical problems on clay tablets over 3,500 years ago. These tablets, etched with cuneiform script, reveal that ancient scholars not only understood arithmetic and geometry but also laid the foundation for modern algebraic thinking. Babylonian mathematicians worked with quadratic equations, systems of numbers, and square roots. They approached math through word problems and visual techniques, using a base 60 system that allowed for precise astronomical calculations and everyday accounting. Their methods weren't symbolic like today's equations. They described problems in steps, like recipes of the mind. Some tablets show their understanding of abstract reasoning, particularly in calculating areas and solving for unknown quantities. These weren't just practical exercises. They reflect a culture deeply engaged with patterns, logic, and the beauty of numbers. As you close your eyes, think of a scholar seated by a flickering oil lamp, gently pressing a stylus into wet clay. In those tiny marks lies the echo of brilliant minds, solving puzzles of the universe with quiet purpose and profound clarity. 31. Indus Valley drainage systems, ancient urban sanitation. The Indus Valley civilization, flourishing around 2500 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, astonished archaeologists with its remarkably advanced city planning. Among its most impressive features was its drainage system, so sophisticated that many modern cities didn't achieve such cleanliness and order until thousands of years later. Streets in cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were laid out in grids, and nearly every house had access to water and a private bathroom. Wastewater was channeled through covered brick drains along the roads, connecting to larger sewer systems that carried waste outside the city. Inspection holes and manholes were even built for maintenance, suggesting an early awareness of public hygiene and engineering upkeep. This wasn't just functional, it reflected a cultural commitment to cleanliness and public health. The civilization lacked monumental temples or palaces, yet poured immense effort into infrastructure. That tells us something deeply human. They prioritized livability over ostentation. Now, as you close your eyes, imagine a quiet street paved with sun-warmed bricks, where water trickles beneath your feet through a hidden system built with care. Even in ancient times, people sought order, comfort, and cleanliness, a silent reminder that innovation often begins with the desire to live well. 32. Ancient ship stabilizers, early maritime balance. Long before modern gyroscopes and stabilizing fins, ancient seafarers were experimenting with clever ways to keep their ships steady in unpredictable waters. Civilizations such as the Greeks, Romans, and Phoenicians used various ballast systems, placing heavy stones or lead in the bottom of ships to improve balance and reduce rocking. But some evidence suggests even more advanced methods were attempted. The Chinese, during the Han Dynasty, may have employed internal compartments to distribute weight more evenly. Some shipwrecks reveal designs that minimized sway by extending keels or widening hulls, prototypes of the stabilizing mechanisms we rely on today. These stabilizers weren't merely technical flourishes, they were crucial for trade, exploration, and naval power. A steadier ship meant a safer journey, more predictable navigation, and better protection for goods. In stormy waters, they could mean the difference between life and death. As your body relaxes into stillness, picture ancient sailors beneath starry skies, gently rocking on a sea tamed by balance and ingenuity. Their hands calloused from rope, their minds sharpened by necessity, they mastered not just the art of sailing, but of surviving the unknown. 33. Ancient Greek alarm clocks, waking with water. While the ancient Greeks are famed for philosophy and art, they were also tinkerers, and one of their lesser-known inventions was an early alarm clock. These devices used the steady drip of water to measure time, a form of the clepsydra or water clock. Ingeniously, some were rigged to trigger an alert once a vessel filled to a certain point. One variation used pebbles or gongs that would fall or strike when water overflowed into a weighted container. Imagine, as the sun rose over Athens, a gentle sound might signal a philosopher it was time to begin his lecture, or a baker to start kneading dough. All without a digital screen or snooze button. Ctesibius, an inventor in Alexandria, is often credited with refining such clocks in the 3rd century BCE. He used gears and siphons to improve precision, making these timekeepers not only functional but mesmerizing. The ticking of water marked time as surely as any sundial or shadow. As sleep begins to take you, imagine a quiet room lit by oil lamps. A drop of water falls, then another, steady as breath. Somewhere in the dark, a tiny chime rings, a whisper from the ancient world reminding us that even thousands of years ago, people shaped time to their rhythm, just as we do now. 34. Phoenician purple dye process, the royal color of the ancients. In the ancient coastal cities of Tyre and Sidon, the Phoenicians developed a method to create a dye so rare and vibrant that it became synonymous with royalty, Tyrian purple. This rich, deep shade of purple was made by extracting a gland from a specific species of sea snail known as murex. The process was long, labor-intensive, and required thousands of snails to dye even a small piece of cloth. To create the dye, the Phoenicians would crack open the shells of the murex and extract the tiny hypobranchial gland, where the chemical precursor to the purple pigment was stored. The secretion was then exposed to sunlight, triggering a chemical reaction that produced the vivid color. The smell during this process was reportedly foul, yet the final product was exquisite and long-lasting. Because of the difficulty in producing it, Tyrian purple was extraordinarily expensive. It became a symbol of wealth and power across the Mediterranean. Roman emperors, Byzantine nobility, and high-ranking officials reserved the right to wear garments dyed in this rare hue. In some places, it was even illegal for common citizens to wear purple. Now, as your eyes grow heavier, imagine the quiet Phoenician workshops by the sea, the faint glimmer of snails gathered from tidal pools, and the ancient alchemy that turned ocean creatures into royal garments. It's a story of patience, artistry, and how even the smallest creature can create something timeless. 35. Chinese rocket arrows, the birth of military rockets. Long before the age of modern rocketry, ancient Chinese inventors harnessed the power of gunpowder to create rocket-propelled weapons. Known as fire arrows, these devices marked one of the earliest uses of propulsion technology in warfare. As early as the 9th century, the Chinese had developed gunpowder mixtures, and by the 13th century, they had begun attaching small tubes filled with this explosive compound to arrows. When ignited, the gunpowder-filled tubes propelled the arrows toward enemy lines with far more range and speed than traditional bows could manage. These rocket arrows were often used in large volleys, terrifying enemy forces with their fiery trails and explosive impacts. Some records even describe variations that included multiple stages or additional incendiary materials to start fires upon landing. The technology spread quickly across Asia and into the Middle East and Europe, influencing the future development of military rocketry. It was the foundation for more advanced forms of rocket warfare seen centuries later. As you relax into stillness, imagine the whistling sound of these arrows cutting through the night sky, primitive yet powerful, a symbol of human ingenuity in harnessing the elements. In their fiery ascent, they carried not only destruction but also the early sparks of an age that would one day reach the stars. 36. Nabatean water harvesting systems, desert survival engineering. In the harsh deserts of present-day Jordan, the Nabateans, best known for their rock-carved city of Petra, engineered a sophisticated water management system that defied the brutal arid climate. They carved channels, cisterns, and reservoirs into stone, collecting rainwater and redirecting flash floods to ensure a constant water supply for their communities. The Nabateans' mastery of hydrology is evident in how they maximized every drop. Cisterns were often hidden beneath buildings, insulated by rock to keep water cool and clean. Terraced landscapes helped slow and guide runoff into these storage sites. Even the narrow passageways of Petra, like the Sikh, were designed not only for dramatic entrances but also to channel rainwater efficiently. This system supported agriculture, daily life, and even luxury in an area that would otherwise be nearly uninhabitable. Their methods were so effective that many of the reservoirs and channels remain intact and functional today, thousands of years later. Now, close your eyes and imagine a world of red stone cliffs, where water flows silently through carved paths, untouched by time. The whisper of rainfall becomes a lifeline. In the stillness of the desert, the Nabateans shaped survival into an art, proving that with enough wisdom, even the driest places can bloom. 37. Roman firefighting equipment, ancient emergency response. In bustling ancient Rome, fire posed a constant threat. Tightly packed buildings made of wood and open flames for cooking or lighting created the perfect conditions for disaster. Recognizing this danger, the Romans developed one of the earliest organized firefighting systems, including specialized equipment and trained personnel called the vigils. The vigils, formed around 6 CE by Emperor Augustus, were essentially a fire brigade made up of freed slaves. They patrolled the streets at night, responding to fires with tools like buckets, hooks, ladders, and even water pumps, devices similar in function to today's hand-operated pumps. They used sand, vinegar, and water to suppress flames, and axes to tear down structures to stop fire from spreading. Romans even designed buildings with fire prevention in mind, incorporating features like fire breaks, and eventually moving toward less flammable construction materials. Their innovations laid the groundwork for urban fire safety protocols. As you ease deeper into rest, picture the torchlit streets of Rome, the quiet shuffle of the vigils on watch, the hiss of water hitting flames. Their presence was a symbol of protection, a quiet promise that someone was always awake, standing guard against the chaos of fire. Even in antiquity, the idea of community safety burned bright. 38. Greek odometer, measuring the world one wheel turn at a time. Long before GPS and digital tracking, the ancient Greeks developed an ingenious way to measure distance, the odometer. Credited to Archimedes, or perhaps Hero of Alexandria, this early distance measuring device worked by counting the revolutions of a wheel attached to a cart. For every full rotation, a mechanism would drop a small pebble into a container. By counting the pebbles, travelers could accurately determine the distance they had traveled. The concept was simple, yet its applications were profound. Accurate measurement of roads was essential for engineering, trade, and military logistics. The Greeks used the odometer to chart routes and standardize distances between cities, helping build the sprawling networks that connected their world. Later, the Romans adopted and refined the device for their massive empire. The odometer's mechanics were likely encased in a wooden box mounted near the wheel. Some versions even used gears to translate rotations into units of measurement. Though few physical examples survive, descriptions of the device have been passed down through ancient texts, providing enough detail for modern reconstructions. As you drift off to sleep, picture a wooden cart creaking down a dusty road under the Mediterranean sun. With every turn of the wheel, another pebble drops softly into its box. A quiet invention, invisible yet essential, mapping the world one step at a time. The odometer reminds us that even the simplest tools can shape the very infrastructure of civilization. 39. Ancient Ethiopian obelisks, stone sentinels of Aksum. Rising like stone needles from the earth, the obelisks of Aksum in modern-day Ethiopia are among the most mysterious and awe-inspiring ancient monuments. Carved from single blocks of granite, some reaching over 80 feet in height, these towering structures date back to the 4th century CE and were likely erected as grave markers or symbols of royal power by the Kingdom of Aksum. The obelisks are intricately decorated, featuring carvings that mimic multi-story buildings complete with windows and doors. These aren't just artistic flourishes, they may represent the homes of the deceased in the afterlife. Transporting and erecting such massive stones without modern machinery required incredible engineering skill. It's believed that ramps, levers, and coordinated human labor allowed them to raise the monoliths, a feat rivaling other ancient wonders. Some obelisks fell during or after construction, but many still stand today, weathered yet resilient. One notable obelisk was taken to Italy during the 20th century and later returned to Ethiopia, a symbol of cultural pride and repatriation. As your thoughts slow, imagine the quiet Aksumite plains at dawn, with the sun casting long shadows from stone towers that have watched over centuries. These obelisks are more than monuments. They are silent storytellers, keepers of a civilization's beliefs, craftsmanship, and enduring legacy. 40. Egyptian prosthetic toes, the world's first bioengineering feat. Amidst the golden sands of ancient Egypt, archaeologists unearthed something both small and revolutionary, a prosthetic toe. Found on a female mummy near Luxor, the wooden and leather-crafted toe is considered one of the earliest known examples of prosthetic technology. This tiny invention reveals a deep understanding of human anatomy and a compassionate approach to healthcare in the ancient world. Far from being purely ceremonial, the toe shows signs of wear, suggesting it was functional and worn in daily life. It was articulated, meaning it allowed movement, and its construction suggests it was designed to help the user walk more naturally, possibly even fit into a sandal. Medical papyri from Egypt reveal the sophistication of their healthcare system. They had knowledge of surgery, wound care, and even prosthetics. The creation of a functional toe, designed not just to restore appearance but also mobility, suggests the Egyptians cared deeply for the well-being of their injured or amputated citizens. As you slip into rest, imagine the stillness of an Egyptian tomb, where beside a bandaged mummy lies a beautifully carved wooden toe, a quiet testament to human ingenuity. In a world of pyramids and pharaohs, even the smallest invention carried immense humanity. It's a gentle reminder that technology isn't always grand or flashy. Sometimes, it's a single step, thoughtfully restored. 41. Greek hydrostatic fountain, the ancient water display. In the heart of ancient Greek engineering lies a fascinating device, the hydrostatic fountain. Often attributed to the inventive genius Hero of Alexandria, this mechanism used air pressure and water to create a continuous flow, simulating a fountain without the need for modern pumps or electricity. Here's how it worked. The fountain had a series of sealed containers, tubes, and chambers positioned at different levels. When water was poured into the top container, the air trapped inside forced water up from the lower chambers, creating an elegant and seemingly self-sustaining fountain. Though not truly perpetual, the illusion was magical, blending science with spectacle. These fountains weren't just for decoration, they showcased the Greeks' deep understanding of pneumatics and hydraulics. Hero's designs laid the groundwork for future studies in fluid mechanics and automation. His principles are still taught today in physics and engineering classrooms around the world. Imagine wandering through a sunlit marble courtyard, the gentle trickle of the fountain echoing softly as water dances into the air, powered by ancient ingenuity. The Greeks didn't just build monuments, they wove wonder into their inventions, reminding us that even the most technical creations can be works of art. As you rest tonight, let the rhythm of water and the brilliance of ancient minds lull you into peaceful dreams, where invention meets serenity. 42. Celtic iron smelting furnaces, mastery of metal. Long before industrial foundries lit the skies with sparks, the ancient Celts mastered the art of iron smelting. Scattered across the green hills of Europe, they built small, clay-lined furnaces called bloomeries, where iron ore was transformed into usable metal, shaping swords, tools, and culture itself. These early furnaces operated at remarkably high temperatures, fueled by charcoal and bellows that pumped in air to stoke the flames. Inside, the iron ore melted and separated from impurities, forming a spongy mass of metal known as a bloom. The bloom was then hammered and shaped by skilled smiths, giving rise to tools that would define everyday life and warfare. What's truly remarkable is the consistency and craftsmanship achieved without modern instruments. Celtic metallurgists developed regional techniques and passed their knowledge through generations, improving strength, flexibility, and even aesthetic qualities of their creations. Their weapons became legendary, strong yet lightweight, perfect for both agriculture and battle. As twilight fades and the world quiets, Imagine glowing embers in an earthen pit, the rhythmic hiss of metal meeting hammer, and the quiet pride of artisans shaping civilization from stone and fire. The Celts weren't just warriors, they were makers whose fiery forges lit the dawn of Europe's Iron Age. 43. Mesopotamian wind catchers, ancient air conditioning. In the hot, arid lands of ancient Mesopotamia, long before the age of electric fans or HVAC systems, people devised a brilliant solution to stay cool: the wind catcher. Known as badgers in later Persian architecture, these tall, chimney-like structures were designed to funnel cooler air from above into buildings, while expelling warm air trapped inside. Constructed from mud brick or stone, wind catchers relied on simple yet effective aerodynamic principles. Positioned to face prevailing winds, they captured breezes and directed them downward, often over a pool of water or damp surface to create evaporative cooling. In some designs, the rising hot air from inside would naturally be drawn out through another shaft, creating a circulation loop that kept interiors remarkably comfortable. This passive cooling technique was an early marvel of sustainable architecture. It required no energy input and was tailored to the region's climate, demonstrating an intimate understanding of natural forces. Wind catchers were common not only in Mesopotamia but also influenced Persian and later Islamic architectural styles. As you drift into slumber, picture ancient rooftops catching the desert breeze, their slender towers a quiet defiance against the heat. Ingenious and elegant, these forgotten structures remind us that comfort doesn't always require complexity. Sometimes, it only takes the wisdom to work with nature's design. 44. Sumerian board games, the origins of play. Long before chess or backgammon, the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia were rolling dice and strategizing moves on beautifully carved game boards. Among the most iconic discoveries is the royal game of yore, dating back over 4,500 years. Found in a royal tomb in the city of Yore, the game consists of a rectangular board with intricate inlays of shell and lapis lazuli, along with small dice and pebbles used as playing pieces. The rules of the game were unknown for decades, until cuneiform tablets were discovered that contained descriptions of how it might have been played. It appears to have involved both chance and strategy, similar to a race game, where players moved their pieces across the board while avoiding pitfalls. It wasn't merely a pastime, it may have had spiritual significance, possibly symbolizing a journey or fate, and was even buried with the dead. This ancient invention reminds us that the urge to play is timeless. It's a window into the human spirit, a moment where people gathered in laughter or friendly rivalry, casting dice under oil lamps in mud brick homes. Leisure, fun, and challenge were just as important to them as they are to us. As you relax into the quiet of the night, imagine ancient players hunched over ornate boards, eyes flickering with anticipation. Their game pieces may be still now, but the joy they sparked carries on, echoing softly across the centuries, inviting you into dreams where even the oldest games still play on. 45. Roman ballista, the giant war crossbow. In the heat of ancient battles, Roman engineers unleashed a fearsome invention, the ballista. Resembling a massive crossbow mounted on a stand, the ballista hurled giant bolts and stones with deadly accuracy. Powered by twisted sinew ropes that stored immense tension, it could shoot projectiles over long distances with astonishing speed and force. These machines weren't just weapons, they were statements of Roman military engineering, combining precision, scale, and intimidation. The ballista could strike down enemy walls, pierce through armored ranks, or take out distant targets with terrifying precision. Different sizes existed, some light enough to be mounted on towers, others enormous and requiring multiple soldiers to operate. Their construction demanded advanced knowledge of physics, material strength, and tension mechanics. Roman commanders used ballistae in sieges and field battles alike, and their devastating impact is described in historical records from Julius Caesar to the Jewish Wars. Though eventually eclipsed by later artillery like the trebuchet, the ballista marked a major leap in long-range warfare technology. As you begin to drift into dreams, picture silent Roman soldiers loading the weapon under moonlight, the creak of rope under strain, the calm before release. There's a strange elegance in the balance of wood, sinew, and stone, a quiet reminder of how far ancient minds could stretch their imaginations, not just to build, but to conquer. Sleep now, wrapped in the distant hum of strategy and invention. 46. Ancient Indian cataract surgery, vision restored in antiquity. In the golden age of Indian science and medicine, around 500 BCE, the legendary physician Sushruta pioneered medical techniques that astound modern surgeons. Among his contributions in the Sushruta Samhita was a detailed method for treating cataracts, a condition that clouds the eye's lens and causes blindness. His approach was one of the earliest recorded forms of cataract surgery. The procedure, called couching, involved inserting a curved needle into the eye and dislodging the cloudy lens so that it could be reabsorbed by the body or displaced away from the line of sight. While this technique seems crude by today's standards, it often restored some degree of vision. What's more impressive is that it was performed with sanitation procedures and post-operative care far ahead of its time. Sushruta's writings also emphasized hygiene, surgical tools, patient care, and even ethics, an approach to medicine that was holistic and humane. The very idea of eye surgery in ancient times might seem terrifying, but it reveals just how daring and compassionate early physicians were. They dared to relieve suffering, even from the most delicate and dangerous conditions. As your eyes begin to close, imagine a quiet clinic along the Ganges, incense drifting through the air, a healer preparing his tools under the rising sun. In those ancient hands, guided by knowledge and care, sight returned to the blind. Their work whispers through time, reminding us that even in darkness, there has always been someone reaching for the light. 47. Polynesian star navigation, guiding by the sky. Long before the invention of compasses or modern GPS, the Polynesians mastered the vast Pacific Ocean using only the stars, ocean swells, bird flight patterns, and cloud formations. This ancient method of navigation was an extraordinary feat of observational intelligence and deep cultural knowledge, passed down through generations by oral tradition and experimental training. Navigators, known as wayfinders, memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars and how they shifted through the seasons. They also recognized the feel of ocean swells coming from different directions and how reflections off distant islands altered the patterns of clouds and waves. By combining these cues, they could steer double-hulled canoes across thousands of miles of open water with incredible accuracy. The knowledge wasn't written but lived, encoded in chants, rituals, and the minds of those trained through intense apprenticeship. It was both science and spirituality, where navigating the sea became an act of communion with nature. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine lying beneath an endless sky dotted with stars, the gentle rocking of a canoe beneath you. In the quiet expanse of the ocean, these ancient wayfinders found not fear, but guidance. Their map was the heavens themselves, their path drawn by starlight and intuition. 48. Maya astronomical observatories, watching the heavens. High atop stepped pyramids and stone platforms, the Maya watched the sky with devotion and precision. Their observatories, like the famous El Caracol at Chichen Itza, were carefully aligned with celestial events, including solstices, equinoxes, and the cycles of Venus, a planet of immense significance in their cosmology. These structures weren't merely ceremonial, they were scientific instruments. By observing the sun's movement across the horizon, the Maya could develop highly accurate calendars and time their agricultural activities with extraordinary precision. The Maya long count calendar, which tracks vast spans of time, is a marvel of mathematical and astronomical integration. Their observations of Venus, eclipses, and planetary cycles were recorded in codices and carved into stone monuments. They understood the patterns so well that they could predict solar and lunar eclipses and even integrated this knowledge into mythology and governance. Now, as sleep draws near, picture a Mayan priest standing in an ancient observatory, eyes fixed on the stars. The wind rustles the leaves below, but above, the sky turns steadily, predictably. In that silent vigil, knowledge is gathered, not for conquest, but for harmony with the natural world. 49. Greek water organ, hydraulis, the ancient musical fountain. Imagine an instrument powered not by breath or string, but by the fluid motion of water. The Greek hydraulis, also known as the water organ, was an astonishing invention from over 2,000 years ago. It wasn't merely a novelty, it was the earliest known keyboard instrument, and its influence still echoes in the music we hear today. Designed to use water pressure to compress air, the hydraulis was able to generate rich, resonant musical notes that amazed all who heard it. The core of the hydraulis's mechanism relied on a combination of hydraulics and pneumatics. Water, channeled into a sealed chamber, helped stabilize the pressure as bellows pushed air into it. This compressed air was then directed through bronze pipes controlled by a keyboard. By pressing different keys, the musician could alter the airflow to produce varying tones, much like a pipe organ. The instrument could be played with subtlety or grandeur, depending on the occasion. Its use extended far beyond private entertainment. The hydraulis became a centerpiece of public festivals, gladiatorial games, and royal gatherings, often played in amphitheaters where its powerful sounds could resonate through the crowd. It brought music to life in a new and dramatic way, combining innovation with performance. As you rest tonight, envision a twilight-lit amphitheater, where ancient melodies flow not from strings or reeds but from cascading water and rising air. The soft gurgle beneath the harmonies, the glow of torches flickering on bronze pipes, it's a lullaby from antiquity, waiting to serenade you into dreams. 50. Aztec Calendar Stone, the Stone of the Sun. Towering and intricate, the Aztec calendar stone, also known as the Stone of the Sun, is not just a calendar. It's a vast cosmic diagram, an artwork carved in volcanic stone that maps the celestial order, the rhythms of time, and the Aztec worldview. Discovered in 1790 beneath Mexico City's Central Square, this massive disc is more than 12 feet wide and weighs over 20 tons. At its center is the face of Tanatia, the sun god, with a tongue shaped like a sacrificial blade, symbolizing the Aztec belief that the sun required nourishment in the form of human sacrifice to continue its journey across the sky. Surrounding Tanatia are rings encoding the Aztec cosmological ages, cardinal directions, calendar days, and celestial movements. It reflects a deep understanding of astronomy and cyclical time, blending religion with mathematical precision. Far from a primitive object, the stone illustrates how ancient civilizations saw time not as a straight line but as a series of ages, each ending in catastrophe and renewal. The Aztecs believed they lived in the fifth and final sun, and the stone was a warning, a guide, and a record of divine cycles. As you settle into sleep, picture this monolithic stone under a dusky sky, its carvings lit by flickering torchlight. It does not tick like a clock, but it turns like the heavens, silent and vast. The heartbeat of a forgotten time, still echoing in stone. 51. Egyptian stone cutting techniques, precision in stone. For centuries, archaeologists have puzzled over how ancient Egyptians managed to cut and shape enormous blocks of granite and limestone with such precision. From the towering pyramids to intricately carved temples and statues, the quality of the stonework remains difficult to replicate even with modern tools. One of the greatest mysteries is how they managed to carve through hard stones like diorite and granite, which are tougher than the copper tools available at the time. Some researchers suggest the Egyptians used sand as an abrasive, combined with copper saws or drills, to wear through the stone slowly. Others point to evidence of tubular drills and unexplained tool marks that hint at technologies we may not yet fully understand. What's most striking is the precision. Stones weighing many tons were cut and placed with joints so tight you can't slide a sheet of paper between them. Some cuts appear to follow complex curves, and there are unfinished quarries revealing techniques in action, giant obelisks abandoned mid-carving. As your eyes begin to close, imagine walking through a sunlit quarry in ancient Egypt, the sound of chisels tapping stone, the glint of copper and sand under the desert sun. A civilization that understood not just how to build monuments, but how to shape time itself into stone. The quiet determination of their labor whispers across millennia, as mysterious as it is awe-inspiring. 52. Byzantine flamethrowers, the secret of Greek fire. Among the most feared weapons of the ancient world was Greek fire, a mysterious incendiary substance used by the Byzantine Empire to devastating effect, especially in naval warfare. What made Greek fire so terrifying was that it could burn even on water, clinging to enemy ships and spreading uncontrollably. Its exact chemical composition remains one of history's great military secrets, lost to time. The weapon was often deployed using a siphon-like device mounted on the prows of ships, essentially an early form of the flamethrower. Other versions were stored in clay grenades or handheld pumps. The effect was chaos. Plumes of fire launched across the sea, lighting up the night and sending enemies into panic. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical destruction it caused. Only a select group of engineers and military commanders were entrusted with its knowledge. Even within the Byzantine Empire, Greek fire was so secretive that it was considered a sacred state technology. Attempts by enemy empires to replicate it failed repeatedly. As sleep begins to gather, imagine sailing under a starry sky on the ancient Mediterranean, the gentle waves lapping against the hull. Suddenly, fire erupts across the sea, unnatural, unquenchable, roaring like a dragon's breath. It is both light and terror, a marvel and a mystery. Greek fire reminds us that sometimes the past guards its secrets in flame. 53. Indus Valley Weighing Scales, the measure of civilization. In the bustling cities of the Indus Valley, more than 4,000 years ago, merchants and traders conducted business using weighing scales with astonishing precision. These early instruments of measurement were crafted from chiseled stones and balanced on bronze pans suspended by cords, simple in design, yet refined in execution. What's remarkable is the standardization across distant cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, suggesting a highly organized system of trade and administration. Each weight was meticulously calibrated using units based on a binary system, and archaeologists have found sets of these weights stored neatly in rows, clearly intended for accurate commerce. The existence of these weighing tools reveals a society that valued fairness, order, and consistency, foundations upon which economies thrive. As you lie in bed tonight, picture an ancient merchant weighing grain beneath the soft glow of an oil lamp, the gentle clink of stone weights marking every transaction. These tiny tools of trade echo with the quiet hum of civilization's earliest marketplaces. They remind us that even in the distant past, people sought balance, not just in trade, but in life. 54. Ancient Chinese suspension bridges, threads across the sky. Long before steel cables and concrete towers, the ancient Chinese were building suspension bridges that defied rugged landscapes. In the mountainous regions of China, especially in Yunnan and Sichuan, people wove natural materials like hemp rope, bamboo, and vines into resilient spans that connected one cliff to another across chasms and rivers. These early suspension bridges relied on deep understanding of tension, weight distribution, and material flexibility. They weren't just engineering marvels, they were lifelines enabling trade, travel, and communication in areas otherwise isolated by nature's barriers. Some designs were so effective that they influenced modern bridge-building techniques centuries later. The sight must have been breathtaking, thin walkways dangling in the mist, swaying gently in the wind, yet secure enough to carry goods, animals, and people. Travelers would grip the sides tightly, hearts racing not from fear, but from awe at the ingenuity of those who came before. As you drift off to sleep, imagine stepping onto such a bridge, suspended in silence above a river veiled in morning fog. Each step is a tribute to human courage and cleverness, a reminder that no gap, geographical or otherwise, is too vast when minds are determined to build a way forward. 55. Etruscan hydraulic mining, taming earth with water. In the hills of ancient Italy, the Etruscans developed a brilliant yet often overlooked technique, hydraulic mining. Using channels and aqueducts, they diverted streams to wash away soil and uncover precious minerals hidden within. This method, which the Romans would later refine, allowed the Etruscans to extract gold and other metals from deep within the earth without modern tools or machinery. By controlling water flow with gates and reservoirs, they could erode entire hillsides and then sift through the slurry to find valuable ores. This wasn't mindless destruction, It was a sophisticated manipulation of natural forces, executed with both environmental awareness and engineering skill. Evidence of these operations still exists in the form of ancient trenches, tunnels, and sluiceways carved into the landscape. The technique was so advanced that Roman engineers eventually adopted and expanded upon it, using it in their vast mining enterprises across the empire. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine water rushing through stone-lined channels, the land slowly revealing its hidden wealth. In that soft, rhythmic flow, you can hear echoes of ancient industry and the patient power of water guided by human hands. It is the sound of civilization, whispering its secrets beneath the surface of time. 56. Egyptian incubation temples, dream healing chambers. In ancient Egypt, there existed sacred chambers that transcended ordinary worship. They were portals to the subconscious, known as incubation temples. These sanctuaries were most often dedicated to Imhotep, the legendary healer and architect who had become a god. Pilgrims, stricken by illness or spiritual unrest, would travel vast distances to these temples, not for medicines, but for dreams. Healing came not through touch, but through visions delivered in the quiet hours of night. Visitors underwent purification rituals before entering, sometimes fasting or bathing in sacred waters. They would then lie on special dream beds within the temple's innermost sanctum, stone floors beneath them, thick incense in the air, and the low, rhythmic chanting of priests echoing through the halls. In this atmosphere of sensory withdrawal and ritual preparation, the subconscious was thought to become more receptive to divine communication. The gods, it was believed, spoke in symbols and visions. Priests trained in dream interpretation would analyze the night's visions and prescribe actions based on them. Sometimes the message was a metaphor, other times it was a direct command. Whether through symbolic healing or newfound psychological insight, many left these temples changed. The architecture and ambience of these temples were carefully designed to induce a dreamlike state. Flickering torchlight, cool stone, sacred music, and ritual chanting blurred the boundaries between the waking world and the dream realm. As you drift into sleep tonight, picture yourself beneath a carved stone ceiling, incense curling around you, and perhaps, just perhaps, a whisper from the divine waiting in your dreams. 57. Phoenician glassblowing, shaping light into art. The Phoenicians, seafaring masters of the Mediterranean, weren't just traders, they were innovators. Among their most enchanting legacies is the art of glassblowing. Around the 1st century BCE, Phoenician artisans began to shape molten glass using a blowpipe, creating vessels of stunning beauty and variety. This invention transformed glass from a rare luxury into something accessible and widely used. Before glassblowing, glass objects were made by casting or grinding, slow and labor-intensive processes. But glassblowing revolutionized production, allowing artisans to shape hollow objects quickly and elegantly. From perfume bottles and drinking vessels to intricate ornaments, Phoenician glass began to travel along trade routes, prized for its clarity, color, and craftsmanship. What made their glass truly magical was its ability to capture and bend light. The shimmering blues, greens, and ambers seemed to glow from within. Ancient people believed these objects held more than utility, they captured the divine light of the sun and stars. As you drift into sleep, picture a Phoenician workshop by the sea. A glowing furnace hums as a craftsman draws up a blob of glass, breathes into his pipe, and shapes light itself into form. In a world of stone and clay, these vessels were like frozen drops of sunlight, fragile, beautiful, and eternal. 58. Roman odor masks, early respirators, breathing easier in the ancient world. In the bustling, often pungent cities of the Roman Empire, dealing with foul odors was more than a matter of comfort, it was thought to be a matter of health. The Romans believed that bad smells carried disease, a concept known as miasma theory. To protect themselves, some citizens and workers began using early forms of odor masks, primitive but clever precursors to modern respirators. These masks were usually cloths or sponges soaked in fragrant substances like lavender, rosewater, or vinegar. People would cover their noses and mouths with them when venturing into unsanitary areas like sewers, battlefields, or during plague outbreaks. Even Roman miners, exposed to harmful dust and fumes, used rudimentary face coverings to reduce inhalation of dangerous particles. While lacking the scientific foundation of today's respirators, these odor masks reflected a growing awareness of airborne dangers and a human instinct to protect the breath, the very essence of life. Philosophers and physicians of the time discussed air quality and its connection to health, laying the groundwork for future advancements. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine walking ancient Roman streets, the aroma of baked bread mixing with city smoke, and around you, the quiet hum of people adapting, surviving. In their own way, they were already trying to master the invisible, seeking purity and safety with every breath. 59. Babylonian water lifting devices, the birth of irrigation engineering. In the arid lands of ancient Mesopotamia, where rainfall was scarce and the rivers were lifelines, the Babylonians developed sophisticated water lifting devices to nourish their crops and sustain growing cities. Among their earliest inventions were shadoofs and early forms of the Archimedean screw, mechanisms that allowed them to move water from lower elevations like rivers or canals up to fields, gardens, and reservoirs. The shadoof, a long pole balanced on a pivot with a bucket at one end and a counterweight at the other, was elegantly simple. With a rhythm that mimicked the natural sway of the human body, it enabled farmers to lift water by hand with less effort. This tool was commonly used alongside canals that branched off from the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, feeding the agricultural heart of the empire. Later innovations, like spiral tubes within cylinders, used rotational motion to move water more efficiently, allowing larger-scale irrigation. These water-lifting devices weren't just mechanical tools, they were the foundation of civilization, feeding a population and allowing culture, trade, and governance to flourish. So as you relax and let the world soften around you, imagine a Babylonian farmer at dawn, barefoot in the mud, drawing water with practiced ease. With each dip and lift, he nurtures not only his crops but the heartbeat of a civilization rising from the soil. 60. Ancient Japanese water clocks, time measured by tranquility. Long before mechanical gears and ticking hands came into play, the Japanese, like many other ancient cultures, devised elegant ways to measure time using the flow of water. Known as rokoku, these ancient Japanese water clocks were as much works of art as they were instruments of timekeeping. Typically, these clocks involved a steady stream of water dripping into or out of a vessel. The rate of flow was carefully calibrated, and the passage of time could be marked by water levels rising to certain notches or by the filling of a graduated series of bowls. In ceremonial or temple settings, monks used them to track meditation sessions or prayer times, reinforcing a harmony between nature's flow and spiritual discipline. What set Japanese water clocks apart was their integration into daily life as quiet companions rather than loud announcers. Unlike modern clocks that interrupt silence, water clocks whispered the hours with grace. Some were beautifully carved from wood or ceramic, adorned with natural motifs that echoed the serenity of their surroundings. Let your mind drift as if listening to the soft, rhythmic drip of water into an ancient bowl. There is no rush, no alarm, just the slow passage of time flowing like a gentle stream. In the stillness of night, such a device could lull you into sleep, reminding you that time itself is a river. 61. Ancient African metallurgy, knock culture, iron before its time. In the heart of West Africa, long before the rise of cities like Timbuktu, the knock culture was forging metal in ways that stunned archaeologists thousands of years later. Dating back to around 1000 BCE, the knock people of what is now Nigeria developed one of the earliest known iron smelting technologies in sub-Saharan Africa. Their ironworking wasn't merely utilitarian, it was revolutionary. Using clay furnaces and bellows, they achieved temperatures high enough to smelt iron ore and produce tools, weapons, and ceremonial objects. This advancement allowed them to cultivate land more effectively, defend themselves, and create complex social systems built on craftsmanship and trade. What makes knock metallurgy particularly remarkable is that it seems to have developed independently, not borrowed from Mediterranean or Asian cultures. Their terracotta sculptures, often found near ancient furnaces, hint at a society deeply intertwined with both artistry and technology. The detail in their art, paired with metallurgical sophistication, suggests a culture thriving in its own right, innovative, resilient, and skilled. Now, as you rest, picture glowing furnaces lighting up the African night. The rhythmic pumping of bellows, sparks flying, and the careful shaping of red-hot iron, it's the heartbeat of a forgotten brilliance. The Nok didn't just survive, they mastered the elements, crafting strength from earth and fire, leaving behind a legacy forged in metal and mystery. 62. Assyrian aqueducts, the world's first mega waterways. Long before the Roman aqueducts astonished the world, the Assyrians were already mastering the art of transporting water across vast distances. Around the 7th century BCE, under the reign of King Sennacherib, the Assyrians constructed a monumental aqueduct system to bring fresh water from the hills to the capital city of Nineveh. This network included an 80-kilometer-long canal and one of the earliest known stone aqueduct bridges, an engineering marvel of its time. The aqueduct was built with massive limestone blocks and waterproof mortar, carrying water across valleys, through tunnels, and over rivers. Its sheer scale required advanced planning, labor organization, and architectural precision. The Assyrians even etched inscriptions into the stone praising their accomplishments and detailing their construction techniques. This infrastructure wasn't just about convenience. Water was life, essential for drinking, agriculture, and sanitation. The aqueduct helped sustain Nineveh's large population and supported its royal gardens, symbolizing both prosperity and the power of the king. As you sink into rest, imagine water flowing gently through ancient channels under the desert moonlight. These whispering streams, guided by stone hands, nourished a civilization and brought life where there once was none. It's a quiet testament to humanity's age-old dream, to shape nature with intelligence and care. 63. Roman road heating systems, ancient underfloor warmth. We often admire Roman roads for their durability and scale, but few know that some were heated. Yes, certain Roman roads, especially those leading into important villas or bathhouses, were constructed with systems that used hypercourse technology to circulate warm air beneath the stone surface, melting snow and making travel more pleasant during colder seasons. The hypercaust, a Roman invention more commonly used in bathhouses and elite homes, involved a raised floor supported by pillars, with hot air from a furnace flowing beneath. In adapted road sections, similar principles applied. Heated air would be channeled through brick or stone flues, keeping the surface above just warm enough to remain clear of ice and snow. Though not widespread across the empire, these heated stretches showcased Rome's dedication to engineering comfort and practicality. It wasn't just about getting from point A to B, it was about making the journey as smooth and elegant as possible. Roads were arteries of empire, and their maintenance reflected Rome's identity as a bringer of order and civilization. As you rest, imagine traveling such a path on a chilly morning, your sandals touching warm stones, steam rising faintly in the crisp air. Even the roads, in Rome's world, seemed to breathe warmth. 64. Minoan earthquake detection architecture, ancient seismic awareness. The Minoans, who flourished on the island of Crete over 3,500 years ago, lived in a region regularly shaken by earthquakes. Instead of succumbing to nature's fury, they adapted with an astonishing level of architectural foresight. Their buildings, especially the grand palaces like Knossos, were constructed with techniques that may have functioned as early earthquake mitigation systems. The Minoans used wooden beams embedded within stone walls, a method that offered flexibility and shock absorption during seismic tremors. Some structures included floating floors and multi-tiered platforms that distributed stress more evenly. These weren't primitive homes. They were elegant, multi-story complexes with plumbing, ventilation, and an understanding of how to endure nature's tremble. Historians believe that through generations of trial and observation, Minoan architects learned to listen to the earth. In fact, There's evidence that some of their more sacred spaces were even designed to resonate or respond subtly to seismic shifts, as if to warn or prepare inhabitants. As you drift to sleep, imagine resting in one of these quiet, thoughtful spaces. Outside, the ground may shift, but within, the architecture sways with the earth, not against it. The Minoans didn't just survive earthquakes. They danced with them, building sanctuaries that held both beauty and resilience. 65. Chinese chain pumps, ingenious water elevators of the ancient fields. In the vast agricultural plains of ancient China, irrigation was essential, and one ingenious solution was the chain pump. First appearing during the Han Dynasty, these devices used an endless loop of paddles or discs attached to a chain, rotated by a hand crank or foot pedal. The lower end dipped into a water source, lifting water upward as the chain rotated through a vertical or sloped pipe. This seemingly simple mechanism allowed farmers to transport water from rivers or wells to their fields with impressive efficiency. Chain pumps could elevate water several meters high, enabling multi-level irrigation and improving crop yields dramatically. Some were even powered by animals or river currents. They soon became a staple across the countryside, with improved versions surviving into later dynasties and beyond. What made chain pumps extraordinary wasn't just their functionality, but their reliability. They were built using bamboo, wood, and iron, materials readily available, yet they demonstrated a deep understanding of fluid mechanics and engineering. For a civilization so reliant on rice paddies and irrigation, this invention was transformative. As you close your eyes, imagine the rhythmic splash of water, the creaking of wooden wheels, and the gentle hum of life pulsing through ancient farmlands. Each turn of the pump brought sustenance, turning barren soil into green abundance. A quiet, persistent motion, lifting, carrying, nourishing. 66. Egyptian automatic statues, sacred machines that moved. In the hallowed halls of Egyptian temples, some statues weren't just stone, they moved, spoke, and even wept. These automatic statues were not mystical illusions but cleverly engineered mechanisms used by priests to awe and inspire. Often made of wood or stone and operated through hidden levers, counterweights, and even heated air, they gave the impression that the gods themselves were present. One famous account describes statues that opened their mouths during rituals, allowing priests to feed them. Others reportedly nodded, stood up, or shed tears of oil. One technique involved heating air inside a sealed chamber beneath the statue, causing pressure to rise and move parts through hydraulics or pneumatics. To temple visitors, the divine seemed active and alive, reinforcing the power and mystery of the gods. These automata weren't just gimmicks, they served spiritual and political purposes. They linked technology with theology, turning temples into places of sensory wonder. The precision required to design these effects also shows that ancient Egyptians weren't just skilled builders, they were curious engineers exploring physics and psychology alike. Now, let your mind drift into the flickering firelit chamber of a temple, the air thick with incense. A statue stirs, its gaze seemingly watching you, as whispers echo through the columns. It's not magic. It's ancient ingenuity animating stone. 67. Ancient Greek robotics, automata, mechanical marvels before their time. Long before modern robotics, ancient Greek inventors like Hero of Alexandria were building machines that could move on their own. These automata, mechanical devices powered by air, steam, or counterweights, entertained, amazed, and even performed religious rituals. Hero's creations included a miniature theater that operated with rotating scenery, automated birds that chirped, and temple doors that opened by themselves when fires were lit on altars. He even described a coin-operated holy water dispenser, one of the earliest known vending machines. The principles he used, pulleys, levers, pneumatics, and siphons, demonstrate a sophisticated grasp of engineering. These devices weren't just toys. In temples, automata added drama to rituals, reinforcing the idea of divine presence. In civic events, they showcased the Greeks' intellectual prowess. And for the curious minds of the time, they represented the promise of human ingenuity, the potential to control and replicate nature using logic and skill. As sleep begins to overtake your thoughts, picture a serene garden in Alexandria. A bronze bird sings, a statue pours wine, and hidden gears turn quietly beneath marble. It's not science fiction, it's ancient science at play, weaving enchantment from brass and breath. 68. Persian underground canals, qanats, lifelines beneath the earth. Beneath the arid landscapes of ancient Persia, a silent revolution was flowing. The qanat system, an ingenious network of underground canals, allowed civilizations to thrive in the heart of the desert. These subterranean aqueducts transported groundwater from distant mountain sources across vast distances, delivering cool, fresh water to cities, farms, and homes without relying on surface streams or mechanical pumps. Dating back over 2,500 years, the qanats were marvels of hydraulic engineering. Workers would dig vertical shafts down to a gently sloping tunnel, ensuring a consistent flow driven entirely by gravity. The systems were low maintenance and highly sustainable, minimizing evaporation and making it possible to cultivate otherwise barren land. Entire communities were built around the availability of qanat water. Their presence influenced where people settled, how cities grew, and how agriculture flourished. These networks even featured inspection wells and access points for maintenance, a level of foresight astonishing even by today's standards. As you drift off tonight, imagine cool waters traveling silently beneath sun-baked sands, threading life through desert silence. The ancient Persians listened to the land, working with it instead of against it. And beneath their feet, their greatest invention whispered life into a thirsty world. 69. Roman windmills, harnessing the breeze before its time. When we think of windmills, medieval Europe often comes to mind. But some scholars suggest that the Romans may have experimented with wind power centuries earlier. Though archaeological evidence is sparse and debated, ancient texts and engineering knowledge hint at the use of vertical axis windmills for grinding grain or pumping water, potentially in remote or arid regions where traditional methods fell short. Romans were no strangers to mechanical innovation. They mastered the water wheel, developed complex gears, and understood wind dynamics through naval and architectural endeavors. Applying wind to rotary motion would have been a logical next step, especially in areas where water wasn't readily available. Even if windmills weren't widespread, the very notion that Romans could envision and attempt to harness wind power speaks to their advanced understanding of mechanics and resourcefulness. It's a testament to how ancient minds constantly sought solutions in nature's forces. So as you rest, picture a Roman hillside with a wooden structure creaking gently in the breeze, its blades turning with the quiet rhythm of innovation. The empire may have crumbled, but the wind still whispers stories of early ingenuity. 70. Sumerian calendar system, timekeeping at the dawn of civilization. In the ancient land of Sumer, where civilization itself began, humanity took one of its boldest intellectual leaps, the invention of the calendar. Thousands of years before digital clocks or printed planners, the Sumerians devised a system to organize the chaos of time, observing the moon, tracking the sun, and dividing the year into manageable cycles. Their calendar was primarily lunar, based on the phases of the moon, with months beginning at the new moon. They used a 12-month year and occasionally added an extra month to align with the solar cycle, a precursor to leap years. This system was vital for agriculture, allowing farmers to predict floods, plant crops, and plan harvests. It also regulated religious festivals, market days, and civil events. Beyond utility, the calendar connected the heavens to daily life. The Sumerians believed celestial movements reflected divine will. By interpreting the sky, they felt they could align human action with cosmic order, a harmony between earth and stars. As you prepare for sleep, imagine a Sumerian priest standing atop a ziggurat, eyes lifted to the moon, marking time not just in days and nights, but in divine rhythm. The ticking of modern clocks may seem far removed, but it echoes the ancient beat of lunar cycles, born under Mesopotamian skies. 71. Olmec compass stones, magnetism before its time. Long before compasses guided sailors across vast oceans, the ancient Olmecs of Mesoamerica may have discovered magnetism. Archaeologists have uncovered carved stones, believed to date back to around 1000 BCE, that appear to align with magnetic north. These stones, shaped like polished bars or pointers, exhibit magnetic properties and are now referred to as Olmec compass stones. The Olmecs are often credited as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, and their understanding of magnetic forces is one of their most astonishing legacies. These stones were possibly used in rituals, architectural alignment, or navigation, although their exact purpose remains speculative. What makes them particularly fascinating is the fact that they demonstrate an early human interaction with geomagnetism, a force that wouldn't be formally understood for millennia. Some researchers suggest the Olmecs discovered magnetite and noted how it naturally aligned in a consistent direction. Whether by deliberate experimentation or accidental discovery, these ancient peoples tapped into a force invisible to the eye, showing a curiosity and insight that still sparks wonder today. As you close your eyes, imagine ancient hands carving a dark stone, sensing its pull, feeling it turn slightly in their palm towards something unseen. In the quiet of a jungle sanctuary, they held nature's secret compass, guided by a force from the earth itself. 72. Chinese kite surveillance, the skyborne spycraft of antiquity. Long before satellites or spy planes soared through the sky, ancient China experimented with airborne surveillance using kites. These weren't just children's toys, they were tools of observation, communication, and perhaps even psychological warfare. Chinese texts dating back to the Han Dynasty, around 200 BC, described the use of large, sturdy kites capable of carrying messages or even rudimentary observers. Some military commanders used kites to measure distances for tunnel digging or assess enemy positions from above. Others launched kites to create eerie sounds with whistles attached, unsettling opponents on the battlefield. These skyborne sentinels symbolized both ingenuity and an early understanding of aerial advantage. There's even folklore suggesting that kites helped spread panic during sieges, appearing like mysterious omens overhead. Whether literal or symbolic, the role of kites in Chinese strategy reveals a culture attuned to both the science and spectacle of the skies. Now, picture yourself lying beneath a starlit sky, feeling the night breeze as a long-tailed kite dances above, high and silent. In the shadows of history, it carries secrets through the air, watching, warning, and whispering across the ages. 73. Carthaginian shipyards, ancient assembly lines of the sea. Carthage, once Rome's greatest rival, wasn't just a powerhouse of trade and military strength. It was home to one of the most advanced shipbuilding complexes in the ancient world. At the heart of its naval might were the Carthaginian shipyards, vast circular docks known as the Kothon. These docks operated much like an early assembly line, allowing Carthage to rapidly produce warships and merchant vessels. The central hub of the shipyard included a control tower and facilities for repair and outfitting. Warships were stored in covered bays, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Ancient accounts describe hundreds of these slipways, each with specialized tools, workers, and materials arranged to maximize efficiency. This setup gave Carthage a tremendous advantage at sea, especially during the Punic Wars against Rome. Their ability to rebuild fleets quickly kept them in contention even after devastating losses. Though the shipyards were eventually destroyed after Rome's final conquest, their scale and innovation left an enduring mark on maritime engineering. So as you relax now, imagine walking through a Carthaginian dock, the scent of salt and pitch in the air, hammers echoing against the hulls of mighty ships. Each plank, each nail, a step in a process refined through centuries. A quiet hum of creation before the roar of the sea. 74. Hittite iron forging, masters of the Metal Age. Long before the widespread adoption of iron changed the course of human history, the Hittites, a powerful and enigmatic civilization that thrived in ancient Anatolia, had already achieved mastery over this challenging metal. Around 1500 BCE, during an age still largely dominated by bronze, the Hittites were quietly revolutionizing the world. While other civilizations relied on the softer and more malleable bronze, the Hittites had uncovered the secrets of smelting and forging iron ore. Their achievement did not merely mark a technological advancement, it sparked a seismic shift in warfare, agriculture, and the structure of society itself. Iron, as a material, was both harder and more durable than bronze. But it was also significantly more difficult to work with. Extracting iron required extremely high temperatures, precise control, and the right kinds of furnaces, technology that most societies had not yet developed. The Hittites, however, engineered clay smelting furnaces capable of reaching these intense temperatures. Once the ore was sufficiently heated, it would form a spongy mass known as a bloom. The bloom was then laboriously hammered to remove slag and impurities, slowly refining the iron into workable metal. This process was incredibly labor-intensive and demanded extraordinary skill, craftsmanship, and patience. The Hittite blacksmiths were not merely workers, they were artisans, engineers, and innovators who toiled at the heart of the empire's power. The forges echoed with the rhythmic clang of hammers day and night, as molten blooms were pounded on stone anvils into sharp swords, sturdy plows, precise nails, durable chisels, and countless other tools. These items were more than just products, they were symbols of the civilization's advancement. In the hands of warriors, Hittite iron swords and spears proved devastating in battle, cutting through bronze weaponry with ease. Their military dominance in the region can be traced directly to this metallurgical prowess. On the home front, stronger agricultural tools meant deeper plowing, more efficient harvesting, and greater food security. In construction, iron fastenings and tools allowed for more ambitious architectural projects. The spread of these iron products throughout the region stimulated commerce, turning the Hittite Empire into a thriving hub of technological exchange. Understanding the immense power of this innovation, the Hittites guarded their methods closely. The iron forging process was treated like state treasure, its secrets passed down among elite smiths and protected with utmost secrecy. For generations, they maintained an exclusive monopoly on iron, exporting finished goods but never revealing the process behind them. Their control of this technology gave them not only military superiority but also political and economic leverage over surrounding kingdoms and city-states. It wasn't until the eventual collapse of the Hittite Empire, around the 12th century BCE, that the once cloistered knowledge began to seep into the wider world. As Hittite refugees, traders, and smiths dispersed across regions, so too did the methods of smelting and forging iron. This marked the beginning of the Iron Age, a pivotal era in human development. What was once the hidden craft of a single empire became the foundation for entire civilizations to rise and flourish in its wake. 75. Ancient Indian zinc distillation, alchemy of the ancients. In the quiet valleys and mineral-rich hills of ancient Rajasthan, something truly astonishing was happening over 3,000 years ago. Long before the gleam of modern chemistry labs in Europe ever sparkled beneath fluorescent lights, Indian metallurgists had already solved one of the most elusive riddles in the history of metalwork: how to distill zinc. Around 1000 BCE, in the ancient mining town of Zoar, they developed a groundbreaking, highly specialized technique to extract and purify zinc metal from ore, becoming the first known civilization in the world to do so on an industrial scale. Zinc posed a unique and frustrating challenge for early metallurgists. While copper and iron could be smelted with comparative ease, zinc has a much lower boiling point and vaporizes before it melts. At high furnace temperatures, the zinc would transform into gas and oxidize the moment it encountered open air, rendering traditional smelting techniques ineffective. But rather than be defeated by this volatile element, Indian scientists met the problem with unparalleled creativity. They engineered closed retort systems, brilliant ceramic vessels inverted inside massive, meticulously built brick furnaces. The zinc vapor was coaxed downward into specially designed collecting chambers where it condensed in isolation, shielded from oxygen. What emerged was pure, glistening metallic zinc. This process wasn't merely trial and error. It reflected a profound, systematic understanding of thermal behavior, pressure, and atmospheric chemistry. These ancient metallurgists essentially designed and operated what could be considered the world's first distillation plants. The remnants of these technologies still lie embedded in the earth at Zor, silent but powerful reminders of their legacy. Archaeological studies of the site have revealed evidence of coordinated labor, well-planned furnace construction, and mass-scale zinc production, pointing to a civilization that had not only technical brilliance but also economic foresight. The zinc they extracted served multiple roles. Combined with copper, it formed brass, a metal prized for its beauty, strength, and resistance to corrosion. These brass artifacts were used in tools, armor, decorative art, and coinage. Zinc also held value in ancient Indian medicine, especially within the Ayurvedic system, where it was ground into powders and believed to have healing properties. Some scholars speculate that zinc's conductive qualities may have even played a role in early battery-like devices used for rituals or experimentation. And so, as your eyelids grow heavier and the quiet of the night deepens around you, imagine those distant alchemists under the stars. Picture them working by torchlight, feeding the fires, tending the ceramic retorts with precision and care.